experience. There was this embrace of this new form of connectivity and hardware. I remember previously it was the Motorola Razr, and that was the first element I can remember that where people actually it was cool to have this device. And then after that, all of a sudden, the iPad showed up and the iPhone showed up, and there was some change in the market and how we thought of it. I think it's interesting, if you look in 2011, there was more data traffic, was about 8 times the size of that of the entire global internet in 2000. According to Gartner, in this space for the immediate future, you can think about 102 million connected devices. These would be media tablets. Think of the iPad. The problem is they're typically used as a companion device or a secondary device. We use them for email. We use them for calendaring, integrating some kind of applications or information sources, maybe showing a PowerPoint. But at some point in time, we actually have to do work. And what we do is we tend to bring out our laptop with some form of normal hardware that has an OS that we're used to building and doing things on. The interesting thing is if you look at the tablet market between 2011 and 2012 of Q2, there was a 68% increase in traffic of millions of units. iOS and Android have doubled in over a year. So why do you think this is so? There's that sheer passion. It's fun. There's this impulsive purchase, right? You run out, you buy this tablet, you buckle down, then it's time to work and you bring out your laptop. And there's this entire market of stuff going on. But, you know, of the chart, where was Microsoft? It's like they're this little wormhole in the giant Apple market. It's as though Microsoft is being seen as this young startup fighting over the behemoths. They've been around for, what, 30 some odd years now. This is about as far from a young startup as you could possibly think of. You know, it's like that scene in Slumdog Millionaire where Jamal wins that staggering 20 million rupees. He's this underdog. He has no chance of succeeding, and yet he did. It's the perfect storm. It's as though Microsoft is being seen as this underdog with no chance of succeeding in this particular market. But you know, what's the buzz? Does Microsoft have really any credibility here, or are they just blowing smoke? You know, I came across some recent articles, and there was some interesting stuff, and some of the headlines started to stick out. You know, this one was no surprise. Windows is always geared for getting work done, so not a shocker here. But it started to get interesting, started to distinguish themselves. For the longest time, we in the field would always joke and say, well, Microsoft's just copying Apple again. Well, here's something that's maybe different. Maybe Microsoft's doing something that Apple wasn't thinking about. This was crazy. Gizmodo said this in June. Now, if we had changed the headline and said Apple, you know, is the most exciting company in tech hands down, we'd all go, yeah, of course. We never think Microsoft's in this position. And most of the time, this line is reserved for some young startup that has this great product or this great solution out here. But I think the craziest thing of all is this. When's the last time anybody has ever used the word crazy, sexy, and anything about Microsoft in the same sentence? It almost never, ever happens. So what do they have going on over here? What's the deal? You have this new modern UI experience. This is that start. I consider it part of the game changer of the strategy here. You know, we recently ran this survey. It was 60% of those cited found that this fresh and fluid approach, the interface is something that you're looking forward to in Windows 8. You know, you have this blend of tiles, these static and live. You can arrange them however you want. The static tiles are pretty much it. You get a picture of an icon or something. But the live tiles are interesting. It has this ability to surface data and bring up some important information for you without having to engage with the application. But it's funny, we're all running around like this is something fresh and new, that this is something exciting and we've never seen this before. But we grew up on this. Live tiles are not new. This has been around for a long time. Anyway, so what do they got going on here, right? If you start to look at the applications, they don't feel like Microsoft anymore. They're very immersive. You get to dive in and have this wonderful experience. And I apologize for the animation because it is animating in PowerPoint, but I do have one of our tablets here, so if you guys have not had a chance to play around with it, by all means do it. And this is the weather app. And the interesting thing about it is as you slide around, you start to get and experience other data around weather, historical information, news if the weather's a big news item. They do the same thing when you get into even in finance. There's a story, a lead story. Everything's stitched together, so you have all this full immersive data. You jump into one location, you get everything you want to know regardless of where the source is coming from, and you get to learn and enjoy and experience. They have a store. That's a nice departure. We're used to them having those little cheesy widgets that no one ever downloaded on the side and a little right panel. Here you actually have third parties could build and deploy apps that we may actually even care about, that we may use, that could enhance our business. I think one of the interesting things is when you start to get into search. You know, we all know there's cognitive biases that we in society have as individuals. It helps drive human behavior at a conscious and a subconscious level. One of the interesting things is when you start to look at social proof. And Bing has actually started to tie this together. So if you engage with the search, you can understand what was going on bees, for instance, in this case. But the interesting thing is when you get your results, they start to tie in your Facebook friends and some of your social stuff that's going on. It enhances the overall experience, and it enhances a typical search result that we're not used to. You know, we've had experience, we've done a handful of these apps. One of the ones was around developer guidance, and it was teaching individuals, developers, how to build Windows 8 applications. We actually got to experience some of the interactions, and we spent a lot of time on how you build and structure and how you move things around and how the OS works. And it was nice. It was spotty, it was responsive, it was fun and engaging. We spent some time, we designed the Windows MSDN magazine reader. This was the completely other end of the spectrum, using type, which is really what the modern UI is, sort of the foundation behind it around. Type is beautiful and open and airy and the structure, and using those pieces to help us build out a overall application. And we spent a lot of time understanding how would the user read and understand and use and engage and experience this entirely new operating system that we're not familiar with, that is new to us. One of the interesting things we find is that there's this big initiative, and it's this seamless integration across multiple platforms. And Windows 8 is really moving in that direction. You know, in that same survey I quoted earlier, 81% of the respondents indicated that Windows 8 was important or very important to their mobile strategy. So what are they doing a little different here? You know, it's not just tying stuff together. I mean, you can look at Apple, you can look at Android. There are platforms that service each one of those markets. But there's something going on here, and it's that being able to tie between all these different experiences in a very customized, personalized manner. It's like the movie theater experience. We've all been there. We go in, horrible seats, screen's okay, maybe good sound. And you're starting to see this change in a market where we're used to that experience, but now there's this new offering coming out where you go to this movie theater and they're nice plush seats and someone comes and serves you a drink and a meal. You still get to watch the movie, but it's catered to you and it's personalized. And this is different than what we're used to in Microsoft. I mean, think back over years. Microsoft builds software. You adapt to the software. You learn how to use it, and you're forced into whatever paradigm they had. In this case, it's different. With the tiles and with a lot of the other experiences that they're designing together, you actually get to be able to customize and make this yours, and make this for what you want it to do and how you want it to work. Anyone here from IT? All right, good. So as you know, one of the hard things that IT has is this consumerization of business, where we have a lot of everyday workers are bringing in iPads and iPhones and et cetera into this corporate landscape. And IT is really having trouble wrapping its head around this mixed operating systems, and historically this has been a huge nightmare. Though it is fun and entertaining to watch IT sweat a little bit, it's really just a huge waste of money. But if you think about it, it's one thing that Microsoft and Windows in general have always been good at, and it's enterprise. That's their market. We can argue whether they've been successful in the consumer market, but they definitely have the stronghold when it comes to enterprise. I know for us, when we go into meetings, and we work with a lot of large and small and some mid-sized companies, but in every one of the companies we walk into, very rarely is the Mac operating system the dominant machine that we see. Unless I'm going into a design studio, or unless I'm in the design group within the organization, and even then it's iffy. Microsoft has the stronghold here. It's good, though, that it got this focus on IT, because in 2014, from Gartner, it's projected that there'll be about $2.8 trillion spent on enterprise. With this kind of money being spent, you know that the demand to fix this problem is only going to get greater. And there needs to be this balance between the delight that Apple brings, and Apple has that, they've got the market on that, and the demands that IT has. And thankfully, Windows 8 is actually addressing that. We get that one modern UI experience that's fun and consumerized, and we get the desktop experience that is what we're used to and we're comfortable with, and IT's happy with and can use it. Reducing that headache in IT is something that's nice, and we need to see what happens as this grows. But there's one other thing that we have to think about, and it's this group. Just like the introduction of new devices, and tablets, and new operating systems, this is who your employees are going to be. They're coming from this group. They're used to the latest and greatest experiences. They're going to demand your IT department allow them to have this stuff in there. They're either going to bring it in and it's on your list of stuff you'll handle, or they're going to sneak it in. That's what they're used to. And for us as employers, we're trying to attract from this audience. We're trying to attract this nice young talent who are bright and smart and can help drive us to the next level. And we need to be able to attract and retain that talent. That we need to give them that experience they feel like they can personalize, and we need to get IT to be able to sleep at night. And remember, in the next few years, baby boomers they'll be retiring. This will be your employees, and a majority of that IT spend will be on the demands from this workforce. So for the entrepreneur out there, by 2014, they're expecting media tablets to represent 58% of the market. This, if you buy into the hype, is a wonderful opportunity outside of the mobile phone market that we probably had for a long time and probably won't see for a long time. Media tablets, those are defined, just so we're all on the same page, as these low overhead operating systems, are sort of the iPads and the iPhones. The iPads. But since Microsoft is merging these two into one experience, I can bring one piece of hardware with me. I can enjoy my tablet-esque type of experience, and when it comes time to work, I can swap over and enjoy my desktop experience. I can even work on some of the apps that are within my tile experience. So I'm merging these together, and it's great. With all the hype going on, and it's nice to see it's positive, mostly positive hype around the new operating system. It's safe to say, at least in my mind, that this is going to be a big contender in the market. If you really want to learn more about it, there's a customer preview you can download. There's a ton of information on building apps. I'd even recommend going down to the Microsoft Store and playing around. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm a huge Apple fan, and I enjoy going to the Apple Store and playing. And when I heard Microsoft was putting out their store, I thought, this should be interesting. And it was great. And they have a lot of fun things to mess around with. At least you get to experience the apps, and you get to experience the software and the hardware and see what's going on. And it's going to be a nice change as things start to evolve. So thank you very much for your time, and look forward to the panel. I guess we'll start in a few minutes. So is there any questions? If you want... Okay. Everyone's eaten? Okay. All right, so Craig?